Imagine you cut your finger. The pain arrives before you have time to think. Your hand pulls away. Your attention locks onto the wound. For a few seconds, almost nothing else matters. Now remove everything you have today. No painkillers, no antibiotics, no hospital, no anesthetic, no doctor. Imagine experiencing that same pain 20,000 years ago. You would still have the same basic human nervous system, but your life would be completely different. So did ancient humans actually feel pain differently? The answer is more complicated than simply saying yes or no. Your brain does not measure pain like a thermometer measures temperature. Pain begins when specialized nerves detect possible damage. These nerves, called nociceptors, respond to extreme heat, pressure, chemicals, and damaged tissue. The signal travels through your nervous system, but the final experience of pain is created by your brain. And your brain does something remarkable. It decides how important that signal is. That decision can change depending on what is happening around you. In the 1940s, American anesthesiologist Henry Beecher noticed this while treating wounded soldiers during World War II. Some soldiers had extremely serious battlefield injuries but reported surprisingly little pain. In 1946, Beecher published his observations. The physical injuries were real, but the amount of pain people reported did not always match the severity of the damage. Why? Because pain is not only about injury, it is also about context. Imagine you burn your hand while cooking. You immediately stop. You look at the injury. You clean it. You rest. But imagine burning your hand while escaping a dangerous animal. Your brain has a different priority. You need to survive first. The pain is still there. Your nerves are still sending signals, but your attention is somewhere else. For prehistoric humans, this ability could have been extremely important. A hunter could injure a foot while tracking an animal. A sharp stone could cut the skin. A fall could damage a bone. But the group still needed food. Water still had to be found. Predators were still nearby. There was no emergency room waiting at the end of the journey. You had to keep functioning. This does not mean ancient humans were immune to pain. Archaeology shows the opposite. Prehistoric skeletons contain evidence of fractures, arthritis, infections, dental disease, and other injuries. The bones cannot tell you exactly how much pain a person felt, but they can tell you something extraordinary. Some people survived injuries that would have severely affected their lives. One of the clearest examples comes from Shanidar Cave in northern Iraq. In 1957, archaeologist Ralph Solecki uncovered Neanderthal remains at the site. One individual became known as Shanidar I. His skeleton showed multiple serious injuries. He had major damage to his right arm. There were also injuries around his face and other parts of his body. Some injuries had healed. That means he survived the original trauma. But surviving was not the end. He had to live with the consequences. He had to move. He had to eat. He had to sleep. He had to remain alive in an environment where survival required constant physical effort. This raises an important possibility. Maybe ancient humans did not survive pain because they felt less of it. Maybe they survived because other people helped them. A severely injured individual might not have been able to hunt normally. Someone else could provide food. Someone could help protect them. Someone could stay nearby. At Shanidar, the survival of injured Neanderthals has been discussed as evidence that social care may have played an important role. Pain was therefore not always an individual problem. Sometimes the entire group had to respond. But there is another reason ancient humans may have experienced pain differently. Their genes were not exactly the same as yours. In 2020, researchers studied the SCN9A gene, which is involved in electrical signaling in pain-sensing neurons. The researchers compared modern human genetic sequences with Neanderthal DNA. They identified several differences in the Neanderthal version of the gene. Laboratory experiments suggested that these changes could make certain pain-sensing neurons more excitable. This does not mean Neanderthals constantly felt more pain. It does not mean every Neanderthal had the same pain threshold. But it proves something important. The biological system involved in pain has changed during human evolution. Your sensitivity to pain is partly influenced by your genes, and some of those genetic differences existed in humans who lived tens of thousands of years ago. But genes are not the entire story. Your brain also learns from experience. If you touch fire once, you remember. If you step on a sharp stone, you become more careful. If a particular plant makes you sick, you learn to avoid it. Pain can therefore become memory. For ancient humans, that memory could mean survival. A painful mistake could become knowledge. A burned hand taught you about fire. A cut taught you about a sharp tool. A bite taught you about a dangerous animal. Your nervous system was constantly collecting information about what could hurt you. In that sense, pain was not simply suffering, it was an alarm. But alarms have a strange problem. They can become too sensitive. Modern neuroscience shows that repeated pain signals can sometimes make the nervous system more responsive. This can happen through processes involving central sensitization. The nervous system becomes more sensitive to incoming signals. Something that once felt harmless can become painful. For prehistoric humans, there was no modern pain clinic to interrupt this cycle. A person could suffer an injury and continue living with its consequences. A damaged tooth could hurt while eating. An old fracture could hurt while walking. An injured joint could hurt during cold weather. Pain could become part of everyday life. And yet prehistoric humans still had to continue. They needed food. They needed water. They needed shelter. They needed to care for children. They needed to cooperate with others. This created a strange relationship with pain. You could not always eliminate it. You had to function while experiencing it. And that may be one of the biggest differences between your life and theirs. Today, when you experience serious pain, you can often stop what you are doing. You can seek treatment. You can take medication. You can rest in a protected environment. For most of human history, those options did not exist. Pain had to exist alongside survival. But there is something even more surprising. The human brain can sometimes reduce the experience of pain when survival requires immediate action. Your body can release natural chemicals called endorphins and other stress-related substances that can temporarily change pain perception. This does not remove the injury. It changes how strongly the injury reaches your conscious attention. Imagine an ancient hunter injured during a dangerous encounter. The wound is real. The blood is real. The damaged tissue is real. But for a short period, survival may become more important than the pain. Only after the danger passes might the full sensation become impossible to ignore. You may have experienced a weaker version of this yourself. You hurt yourself. You keep moving. Then later, when everything becomes quiet, you suddenly notice how much it hurts. The injury did not necessarily become worse. Your brain simply had more time to focus on it. That is why the question may not be, did ancient humans feel less pain? A better question is, what happened when pain was unavoidable? For thousands of generations, humans lived with injuries that modern medicine can now treat within hours. A broken bone could take weeks to heal. An infected wound could become dangerous. A damaged tooth could remain painful. Yet people survived. They adapted. They learned. And they depended on one another. So ancient humans probably did not possess some mysterious ability to ignore pain. Their pain system was fundamentally human. Their nerves detected damage. Their brains interpreted danger. Their bodies reacted. Their memories recorded painful experiences. The difference was the world surrounding that nervous system. You experience pain in a world where you can often escape it. They experience pain in a world where survival frequently required them to continue despite it. The next time a small injury suddenly takes over your attention, remember what is actually happening. The sensation is not simply coming from the damaged part of your body. Your brain is receiving an ancient warning, a warning system shaped over millions of years. Long before hospitals, long before painkillers, long before modern humans built the world you know. The pain you feel today may come from a paper cut, a toothache, or a twisted ankle. But the system producing that sensation belongs to a much older human story. You are not experiencing a modern invention. You are experiencing one of the oldest survival signals your body has ever had.